They thought their plan was perfect. For weeks, they met in hidden places, plotting in whispers, believing that no one would ever discover their intentions. They convinced themselves that power could be stolen in a single night. They told each other that the people were tired, that no one would rise up, that fear would silence every voice that mattered. But they were wrong. They were about to find out that some leaders cannot be removed so easily. It all began before sunrise. Dark convoys rolled through empty streets, the sound of heavy engines echoing like thunder in the early morning air. Orders were passed quietly over encrypted radios, each word sharp and urgent. They believed their timing was perfect. They believed the man inside the presidential residence was alone, unaware, and defenseless. But inside those walls, Captain Ibrahim Traoré was wide awake. He had already received whispers of what was coming. He was not panicked. He was not afraid. Instead, he stood calmly on the balcony, watching the horizon slowly light up. He knew something they didn't know. The loyalty of a people is stronger than any secret plan. The first vehicles approached. Soldiers stepped out, weapons in hand, faces hidden behind masks of authority. They advanced slowly, expecting no resistance. But then something strange happened. A few of the soldiers hesitated. They looked at each other, unsure. These were not just orders they were following. These were commands to turn on a man they had marched with through dust and blood. A man who had fought beside them when no one else would. A man who had shared their rations, their fears, and their dreams of a country free from betrayal. One soldier lowered his weapon, then another, then another. The commanders yelled through their radios, demanding discipline, demanding obedience. But the line had been broken. The soldiers sent to seize him were no longer willing to be used. One of them dropped to his knees, shouting that he would not be part of a betrayal. Others followed, their voices joining together until it became impossible to ignore. The commotion spread like fire. Within minutes, word had escaped the compound and swept through the streets. Shopkeepers abandoned their stalls. Drivers stopped their cars in the middle of the road. Mothers woke their children and took them outside. The city was alive, buzzing with urgent whispers. They are trying to remove him. They are trying to take our future. Crowds began to form, first by the dozens, then by the hundreds, then by the thousands. Men, women, elders, students, all moving with purpose, filling the roads with chants that shook the air. They blocked every route to the compound, linking arms, waving flags, lifting their voices as one. It wasn't just a protest, it was a wall of living, breathing defiance. Inside the compound, the sight was overwhelming. From the balcony, Captain Traoré watched as the people swarmed the streets, protecting him without fear. The soldiers who had once been part of the operation now stood beside him, their faces set with pride instead of doubt. The commanders on the other end of the radios could only listen in disbelief as their mission collapsed in real time. The conspirators, those who had planned every step so carefully, felt the ground slip from beneath them. They had expected silence. Instead, they were met with a roar that spread far beyond the city, across the country, across the world. Cameras began to roll. Phones captured the moment and broadcast it everywhere. A leader they thought they could erase was standing tall, unshaken, surrounded by people who had chosen him not out of fear, but out of hope. And then came his voice, clear and unwavering, carried over loudspeakers and cheers. You have spoken. You have shown the world that your will cannot be stolen. Today, we stand not as a leader and a people, but as one. The crowd erupted. Tears streamed down faces. Strangers embraced. Children climbed onto shoulders waving handmade banners. The conspirators scattered. Some ran, others were captured, but none succeeded. Their plan had not only failed, it had united a nation. What was meant to be a day of betrayal became a day of victory. What was meant to be the fall of a leader became the rise of a movement. And as night fell, the streets still echoed with songs and chants. Fires burned in celebration, not in destruction. Soldiers stood guard, not out of duty, but out of choice. The city, once tense with uncertainty, was alive with pride and hope. They tried to remove Captain Ibrahim Traoré from power. They believed that by taking him down, they could take down the will of the people. But what happened next shocked everyone. Because in the end, true power does not belong to those who plot in secret. True power belongs to those who stand together and refuse to be broken. And on that day, the world watched as a nation proved it.